Hey everyone, what's up? It is about 9:11, 9:12, I believe. I've got about 34 minutes before I clock into work. Yeah, I actually clock in about, hold on. Yeah, I actually clock in at about 9:45. And first of all, I do apologize for any abrupt interruptions on this live stream, as well as some bad connections. Um, that's just what happens when you do live. Even happens with the best of us, OTRS Central, Deluxe Man, Andre Meadows, you name it. But I thought I'd come on here and basically talk about, and basically try to answer, in my opinion, who I believe should win Money in the Bank for both the men and the women. As far as we know, for the men, we have Braun Strowman. We have Finn Balor, I believe. We have one of the members of the New Day, most likely Big E. Who else do we have? We have Bobby Roode, I believe. I really got to see who it is, but we got the Miz. We got the Miz in there. So we have Bobby Roode, the Miz, one of the members of the New Day. We have, we have Rusev in there. We have Rusev. So we have Bobby Roode, the Miz, one of the members of New Day, Rusev. Who else was in there? Trying to think. Oh, Kevin Owens. And I just mentioned somebody else. Oh, Braun Strowman. So we need one more, and that's going to happen this Monday in a last chance, I believe, matchup to see who gets in as the final participant. As far as the women go, we have Charlotte, we have Becky Lynch, we have Naomi, we have Natalya, we have Alexa, and I think we're getting one more. I think, what was that? We have Charlotte, we have Becky, we have Naomi, we have Alexa, we have Natalya, I believe, and we have Lana, and I think, who else is in there? Who else qualified? I'm trying to think who else qualified. You see, we have Lana, we have Alexa, we have Naomi, we have Charlotte, we have Becky. Oh, we have Ember Moon. That's right, we have Ember Moon. So we have Ember Moon, Charlotte, Becky, Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Lana, and Natalya. And just like with the men, they have one more match to go to determine who gets a second chance to get in Money in the Bank. But the question's going to be, who wins it? Everybody wants to know. I asked Deluxe Man in a Q&A he did on Sunday, and he pretty much said that the two he believes need to get it are The Miz and Becky Lynch. A lot of people are for The Miz because they feel The Miz right now has that momentum that not only could he lay claim to being just one of the rare people to be a two-time Money in the Bank winner by winning 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches, but also lay claim to being one of the few men besides CM Punk and Edge to cash in successfully on with both the briefcases. But the question would be, but the question is, should it be The Miz? Or could it be somebody else? Some people might say it should be Braun Strowman. That way they could officially set up Lesnar and Strowman again at SummerSlam. So that way Strowman could pretty much, as a man, go up to Lesnar and say, hey, you got no way of getting out of this now because I'm cashing in on you at SummerSlam, and I'm going to take that belt. So they could do it that way too. Finn Balor, some would say, needs it because he hasn't really gotten an official rematch for the Universal Championship, and that if he gets it, he should automatically cash in on a weakened Brock Lesnar. Like, let's say Brock somehow gets beaten down on a Raw, Finn Balor should just come in, cash in, hit the coup de grace, 1, 2, 3, and become champion. It may be a little heelish, but people would be more happy about having someone like him as champion over someone like Brock Lesnar, and then they could finally, I guess, get the Finn Balor Universal Champion experiment off and running. But it all depends. It really all depends on what happens. But when I look at both matchups, we still, like I said, we still have one more spot each way of who's going to get in. I believe for the women, I think Sasha is probably going to get into this match. I don't know why. I think Sasha is going to get in. Why do I say that? Because I could see something happening to where Bayley may look like she's going to win the second chance, and then Sasha probably hits her with a backstabber, gets her out of the way, and then steals the pinfall and goes into the match. I could see that. And that, in a sense, can create some conflicts, because from a story perspective, you could have Becky and Charlotte double team on Sasha in the Money in the Bank match as payback for basically betraying not only Bayley's trust, but theirs as well. Because to them, this means something, especially to Charlotte. And once you betray this, you're pretty much enemy number one. That's about it. You're pretty much enemy number one. So, in my opinion, I think Sasha is going to get in to continue that storyline conflict, and this time it's going to probably involve the other two horsewomen just briefly, because hey, you not only betrayed and stabbed Bayley in the back, but you stabbed us. I think that would be an interesting conflict in the end when you think about it. So yeah, I think Charlotte's going to get in. I mean, not Charlotte, but I think Sasha's going to get in. And I would assume that Daniel Bryan's going to get in. I would assume that. But then again, this is a match to where if he takes the wrong kind of injury, that pretty much it spells the end. So as much as I would like to say Daniel's going to get in so we can have that moment, I don't think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is Daniel is going to probably lose to Samoa Joe thanks to Cass coming out and costing him the match, or something like that. Or something's going to happen, and Daniel is going to end up being ousted from the match. I could see that happening, because I could see this also being a Samoa Joe match. It's a moment for Samoa Joe, but we'd have to wait and see. But yeah, this Tuesday we're going to find out who it is, either Daniel or Joe that gets in. If Daniel gets in, hey, that gives us a moment between him and The Miz in the match. That would be a prelude to maybe SummerSlam. But then again, when you have Joe with the momentum he has, and being focused on as SmackDown's top heel or top anti-face or whatever you want to call it, top monster in a sense, you know, it's a kind of a pickup. And so, with that said, I think honestly, as much as I would like to see Daniel in the match, and that would be great, because he would have a second chance of being Mr. Money in the Bank, I have a feeling Joe's going to get in. Joe's going to win the match, because I think either Miz is going to cost Daniel, because that's the last person he wants in the match, is Daniel Bryan. So I think basically the Miz is going to cost Daniel, because he doesn't want to have him in the match. And I think Daniel's going to get what some people consider a constellation prize, and that's a shot at the United States Championship and Jeff Hardy. I would assume. I would assume. They might make things interesting and say, hey, hey, Shane and Paige, Paige might make things interesting and said, hey, Miz, since you interfered, cost Daniel a match as a constellation to make it up for him, I'm also adding Daniel to the match. I mean, Paige and Shane could say, look, you interfered in this match, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to add him to the match anyway. I could see them doing that. I could see them pulling something like that just so that the men, I could see them pulling something like that just so Vince can have the men, with all due respect, have more participants in their match than the women. I could see that. I could see that. But we'd have to wait and see exactly what they have in store. But yeah, I can see that. I can see them pulling something like that just so that the men have the bigger ladder match than the women. So so basically what I'm saying is, just when you think you're only going to get maybe 8 men in the match, you're probably going to end up getting 9. I don't know why, I just get this feeling. I could be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see. But as far as who I think should walk out with the Money in the Bank briefcases after Money in the Bank is all said and done, a lot of people are saying the most obvious choices, if not the most predictable choices and the safe bets, are the Miz and Charlotte, or the Braun Strowman and Charlotte. Those are basically the safe bets. But here's the one thing about MITB. The one thing about MITB is just when you think they're going to go one way, they go another. That's one thing we got to give credit to WWE about. Just when you think they're going to go one way, they go another. There have been several Money in the Bank matches where you thought, oh, they're going to go this route, but they're going to go that route. But the question is, what route will they take? Well, if they go the route, let's take a look at the men. If they go the route of Braun Strowman, like I said, the most logical thing is for Braun Strowman to come out the next night on SummerSlam after Money in the Bank, which could be the Raw that Brock Lesnar, one of the Raws that Brock Lesnar shows up on, confront Brock Lesnar and say, and maybe do some kind of a work shoot with him, on him, saying, hey, I know you're not going to be around here much. You're not going to be around here for Extreme Rules. So I'm going to give you time to get ready and everything, because I'm going to cash in on you at SummerSlam like a man and take that belt. In other words, play into the fact that Brock doesn't want to waste his time on these B-level dual-branded pay-per-views, and then he only wants to be where the money is. Or throw a wrench into the works and have Braun come out and basically say he's going to cash in on Brock at Extreme Rules, even though he knows Brock is not scheduled to be Extreme Rules. He's going to use his Money in the Bank briefcase leverage to make sure Brock is there to compete and defend the championship. In other words, from a realistic standpoint, he could use the Money in the Bank briefcase to say, hey, Brock, obviously from what I heard, you're not scheduled to work Extreme Rules. Well, guess what? Plans have changed. I'm cashing in at Extreme Rules against you, and you better be there. Or he could be like, I'm cashing in on you at Extreme Rules, so this means you have no choice but to be there. And be a man for once, be there and defend that championship whether you want to or not. And like I said, you could play that into the storylines. You can play that realism into the storyline to where you could have Paul Heyman come out along with Brock. You could have Paul Heyman get in the face of Kurt Angle, maybe try to argue, get in the face of Stephanie and say, this is not fair. You know, heck, you can bring Vince McMahon in. You could go that far in that short amount of time, saying this is not right. Brock is not supposed to be scheduled for Extreme Rules. You know his schedule. Well, he's not supposed to be wrestling that night or fighting that night. He's not scheduled to. And in turn, you could have Stephanie, Vince, or even Kurt say, yes, that's true, but because Braun won Money in the Bank, he has the right to choose when and where he wants to cash in for the championship and against who, and he's chosen Extreme Rules, which means you got to be there. They could do that. They could have either one of those three people tell Paul and Brock, hey, we understand, we know that, but guess what? Braun has a little bit more leverage now than you do, which means since he's got that briefcase, which allows him to cash in whenever he wants, and he's chosen to cash in on Brock at Extreme Rules, whether Brock was scheduled to be there or not. Whether Brock was not scheduled to be there originally, well, guess what? Now he is. Again, they can throw that realism in there so that that works into the fact that they throw that, basically what I'm saying is they can throw that realism into the storyline and showcase the fact that Brock does not care about these B-level pay-per-views and rather be competing at things like SummerSlam. You could do that. And you could also play into the fact that maybe Brock is kind of afraid. Like, he knew that maybe Brock and Paul Heyman are kind of afraid. You know? That basically they know that Brock, the last time he went one-on-one with Strowman, barely squeaked out a win, barely got by him. And that the last time they met in any kind of match, it was Kane he pinned, not Braun Strowman. So overall, that could work. I know that was kind of convoluted there, but I know that could work. In a sense, you could work that in. Either way they go with it. If Braun's the obvious choice to go with. Miz, on the other hand, that's kind of an obvious choice too, and more logical choice because he's on a momentum. He's got so much momentum behind him. And after everything he's done to reestablish the prestige of the Intercontinental Championship, it only makes sense to give Miz the Money in the Bank briefcase, make him a two-time winner. But the question is, how and when do you have him cash in? Some people have said that the best solution is to have him cash in against Daniel Bryan. But Daniel's not champion yet. Daniel's not a champion. He's not at the championship. He's not close to sniffing the championship yet. Now, I know some could say, well, that could change. You know, they could say Daniel could end up winning a one-on-one match against AJ, or a one-on-one match against Nakamura, or maybe win a multi-person match involving Nakamura, Styles, and Joe. And that could happen, and then that's when Miz could cash in. Miz could come from behind and attack him, or Joe can come from behind and attack him after the match. Lay him out because, you know, I think maybe Joe's the one he pinned, or who knows. Or Joe's upset that he didn't get pinned, but he lost the match. You could have that happen. And then you could have Miz's music hit. Miz comes out, picks Daniel, tells the referee he's cashing in. Referee rings the bell. Briefcase, referee rings the bell. Miz picks up Daniel, hits him with a skull-crushing finale. 1, 2, 3. There you go, and you're off to the races with this, and you're really taking off to the races with this rivalry and this feud that's been going on for nearly a decade between the two. I mean, and you build to a match at WrestleMania between the two, where Daniel could regain the championship, but then the way you end this rivalry at WrestleMania is not just by having Daniel win the championship back, but you have it end similar to Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar from 19. You have both Miz and Daniel shake hands and embrace and show that mutual respect that they both have for each other, and realize, hey, maybe we're both on the same level, or maybe we were both wrong about each other. You could do that. You could do that. So that's another obvious way they can go. It really is, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would not have a problem whatsoever with them going in that direction. I wouldn't. However, with that said, let's take a look at other possibilities. Let's say they throw a wrench into everybody's predictions. Sorry about that. Let's say they throw a wrench in everybody's predictions and they make Bobby Roode Mr. Money in the Bank. Where do you go with Bobby Roode? Where do you go with him? Huh? Well, a lot of people feel that Bobby's a more natural heel with this glorious persona than a face. Well, you can go that way too. But what you can do is you could maybe you could ask Bobby what he would like to do. And maybe Bobby could say, hey, I had this persona in Impact Wrestling, TNA, called the It Factor. There you go. You can have Bobby win Money in the Bank and turn heel in the process, and then say he's no longer going to be glorious for these fans because the It Factor does not have to be glorious. And you could bring that It Factor persona in. I think that could really work. I really do. I think it could really work for Roode if he goes heel. That you basically have him demolish or be rid or retire the glorious gimmick and go back to the It gimmick or something similar to it. And be a heel that fans want, and be the kind of heel that will cash in on someone like an AJ Styles. Like, he'll go back to SmackDown because he could choose any champion, right? They could choose any champion. He goes back to SmackDown, boom, cashes in on AJ, there you go. So, I could see them doing something like that. I really could. I could see them doing something like that. And for someone like a Bobby Roode, they choosing someone like him to be the wild card to win Money in the Bank. Could they go with one of the members of the New Day? Like, if it's Big E, do they go with him? Well, obviously there's rumors that he's supposed to get a push soon. That would be logical. And it would be history in the making if they allowed him to cash in and become WWE champion. So, but if they do that and they choose Big E as the wild card pick, do they turn Big E heel? Do they turn Kofi and Xavier heel out of jealousy? Who knows? Or do they turn one of them heel while the other is supportive? It kind of makes you curious. It kind of makes you curious of exactly what they will do. Ooh, if it's one of the members of the New Day. And what about Finn Balor? I wouldn't put it past WWE to give Finn Balor the briefcase. Finn Balor, in this case, could cash in on Brock Lesnar. Let's say Brock Lesnar gets beat down during an episode of Raw by, let's say, a Braun Strowman. Finn Balor's music could hit. He can run down with the referee, cash in, go to the top rope, hit the coup de grace, all while Brock is down, selling the pain, pin him, 1, 2, 3. And Brock ends up losing the championship to Finn Balor, and Finn can finally start a successful Universal title reign. That to me opens a lot of doors right there. I mean, the possibilities for the men are endless. Heck, even Kevin Owens is a good choice. Kevin Owens is a good choice because here's why. Imagine Kevin Owens wins this, and later on that night after the Last Man Standing match, he goes to the ring, cashes in on whoever the champion is, attacks whoever the champion is, whether it's AJ or Shinsuke, hits him with cashes in his briefcase, hits a pop-up powerbomb, 1, 2, 3. He's the WWE champion, and thus he goes back to SmackDown. And oh my gosh, you continue the whole rivalry with Shane because this is Shane's worst nightmare. Kevin Owens is now his WWE champion. It's like the last thing Shane wants is Kevin Owens being the champion of SmackDown, and guess what? That could happen, and that itself can really build to something, because then you'd have Shane either attempting not to get involved, not to give himself a championship match, just to get the belt off of Owens. You would have him try to choose somebody to go after him. But who? That would be the question. Who can he choose? Does he choose AJ for the rematch, or AJ or Shinsuke for the rematch? Obviously. Does he choose Jeff Hardy? Does he choose Daniel Bryan, his former general manager? What? The thing is, the possibility, overall, the possibilities for the men is just, insane. Of what could happen, what direction, story arcs, and everything they can build from this. But if I was to choose the one person I think it needs the most, as much as they may go with Braun Strowman, they got to go with The Miz. They got to go with Mike Mizanin. Because after everything Miz has done, whether you love him or you hate him, he has helped this company reach new heights from a media perspective, and he's helped put prestige back into that Intercontinental Championship. So if I'm WWE, I go with The Miz. Because you got a storyline building right there, sitting and waiting to be really ignited with him and Daniel if you decide for SummerSlam to give Daniel the strap, and then you go that route that many people feel would be the best solution. Have Miz cash in afterwards and ruin the moment. That in itself is reason enough. And who knows? Who knows? You can have Miz cash in as a heel, and during his run as champion, he can automatically, slowly, by the fans' power, mostly, turn into a babyface. That's happened. Fans have naturally turned someone that's a heel into a babyface. And Miz is a heel that can be naturally turned. And he would embrace it. And I think this would be probably one of the ways to make that happen. To me, it's a logical choice. I think it's the smarter choice, in my opinion. It's a smarter choice. Now, as far as the women go, the obvious choice, predictably, is Charlotte. Why? Because they want to build to Charlotte and Ronda. Think of it this way. Charlotte can remain on SmackDown after she wins, and the story writes itself. Everybody complains that the women's division on both brands might be good, but it could be a lot better. That the overall women's division on both brands could be better. That you got good talent, good athletes, but the divisions themselves are less to be desired. This is where you could really build to that, making Charlotte and Ronda your headline closing out main event for WrestleMania 35. You have, because naturally the story's there. The progression is there. The opportunity is right in front of them. You have Charlotte win Money in the Bank, like a lot of people are predicting. But then you have her hold the briefcase until we get to maybe Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. Then you have her around that time not cash in, but you have her approach Ronda, who should by then be the Raw Women's Champion, which going into Mania, that's what you would want. You have her approach Ronda and say at WrestleMania 35 she's going to cash in on her for the Raw Women's Championship. But here's the caveat. Here's the icing on the cake. Charlotte remains Miss Money in the Bank throughout the months leading up to that moment. And at the same time, she recaptures the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then you're off to the races, because then you get to that moment that I mentioned where she confronts Ronda. Say at WrestleMania she's going to cash in on her briefcase for the Raw Women's Championship, but on top of that, she's woman enough, the queen, that on top of that, that since she's the queen, she's also willing to put her SmackDown Championship on the line, and thus you have yourself a Unification Women's Championship match as your main event at WrestleMania 35 between Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey. The winner is the unified WWE Women's Champion. It makes sense. It's a natural progression. It's a natural climax for the women's evolution. And thus, by doing so, you bring the women's division of both brands together as one, and then you have enough of a reason, or whether or not you do it as we get close to SummerSlam or Clash of Champions, you would have enough of a reason then after Mania to start focusing on women tag team championships. Because that is not only a true main event worthy of headlining and closing. Sorry about that. Again, I got an abrupt interruption there. I got to get into work. But anyway, imagine the publicity, the media coverage they would get, the tickets they would sell if they go in that direction of having Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, title for title at WrestleMania. And the reason it's title for title is not only Charlotte putting her SmackDown title on the line, but she's also cashing in on Ronda for a shot at the Raw Women's Championship. Thus you have a unification match, which, like I said, after it's all said and done, reunites the women's division. And then if you don't go, towards it in the next couple of months, if you don't go forward with the supposed speculated plan of tag titles in a few months, you can wait. And if you want to wait and hold off long enough till after WrestleMania, that would be the perfect opportunity, because of this match, you'd be able to move forward and be able to develop and create your women's tag titles, maybe even women's secondary titles like Intercontinental or US. The possibilities are endless, all because of that one match. And like I said, it would be historic. And again, like I said, you want to make things historic for the women in wrestling. Not only would it be historic for them to headline and close out WrestleMania, because this would be a match worthy of doing that, but it would be historic because this would be the first time, as far as I know, on any WrestleMania, a Super Bowl-like stage in wrestling, that the women have closed out and main evented the show. First time. Doesn't matter what promotion, it'd be the first time. And I think this, going in this direction, could work. But the other question is, who else should also win? A lot of people say Becky Lynch needs it. If you do Becky Lynch, then you have to turn her heel and have her cash in on Asuka if Asuka beats Carmella. You have to do that. You have to have her you have to have her turn heel, cash in on Asuka, and become champion. And then you got a good storyline and rivalry there. Because Asuka could always win the belt back, but you could experiment with turning someone like Becky Lynch into a heel. It could work. Ember Moon, I think, could really benefit from it, because that would be, like I said, with the men, that would be a wild card pick. Because not only be a wild card pick, but you could basically have Ember be the kind of champion that would want to cash in legitimately one-on-one against whoever the champion is. And hey, who knows where you can go with that. Natalya winning would make sense, because if you have Ronda go over Nia, then you can build to Natalya and Ronda by having Natalya do what I said Becky could do to Asuka, and that's attack her from behind. Make it look like, oh, she's going to come down and congratulate Ronda on winning, and then suddenly she attacks her, hits her with the briefcase, and then tells the referee she's cashing in, And there you go. You're off to the races with that. And you have Natalya beat Ronda for the championship. And like I said, you're off to the races with that. So again, the possibilities are endless. Just like with the men, they are endless when it comes to the women's Money in the Bank match as to what direction, storylines, and everything they can go with the women. But I think, honestly, I got to go with the most predictable route, and that's Charlotte, because of what I said it could lead to. So that's all I'm going to really say on who I think should win Money in the Bank this year for both the men and the women. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Like video responses are greatly appreciated. I got to get into work now, and I'll talk to y'all later.